As a good practice in Excel, whenever you finish a tool, you want to have a user manual or a guide. And usually this guide, you put it in an Excel sheet at the beginning of the tool. So like me, you can come and then you select this, select some cells, then you can go here, you can say, okay, I want them in gray, let's say. Then in the middle, you can select this, make it white, and then you click on this arrow under home and you put some borders. So I'm going to put some borders like this. And then here I can write things about the tool. So I'm going to just copy paste this sentence to show you something. So I'm copy pasting this. As you can see, the sentence goes more than the space I allocated. So a lot of time what you will do, you will go here, you will just cut something, you will go to the second line, you will paste this, and so on. And then if you want to change something here, you want to add some words, then you have to do the work all over again. Well, I'm going to show you a quick and easy trick to deal with this, and then I'm going to tell you about its limitation. And in order to go one step further, we're going to build also a macro. So if your case is more complicated than the easy trick, then you will use the macro, and I will put the link in the description so you can download the workbook with the macro and start using it if VBA is not your thing. So let's start. Basically what you do is that you select your text, you select your cells, you can select as many as you want, doesn't matter, and then you go here under home, you go to this which is called fill, and then you click on justify. And as you can see, it is magic. It will do it on its own. So now if you add something and then you say, for example, you can see that now homework is outside. You can just select your cells and then you click here again and you do justify. And as you can see, it will do the trick. The only problem with this is that it takes maximum 255 characters. So in this line, if you had more than 255 characters, it will delete the rest and then it will do the justify. So in case you have something that is much more than 255 characters, then we're gonna go to the macro approach. So the first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna set up our worksheet on which we're gonna apply a macro. So I will create a new worksheet, and then here I'm gonna select all this. I'm gonna do view, grid lines. I don't have grid lines. Then I'm gonna start with my maximum number of characters. What is this? Basically, if you see here, I want to set what is the maximum number of characters I can have in one line, and then it has to go to the next line, right? So that's what we're gonna do first. So this, I'm gonna have a box. Here you go under home, and then I'm gonna color it in gray so we can set it up. I'm gonna write 80. The next thing we're gonna do is the input. So input text, which is our text. So we're gonna do the same. We color it, we use the lines, grid lines, and then we go to instruction. We're gonna copy this. So I'm gonna do Control C, then I go to my sheet, and then I go paste, paste special, and then values. So I have my text. Next is my output. So we're gonna do output text. And this will go over several lines. So let's just select several lines and then do a border. And then I'm gonna use the length formula. I'm gonna put a link to this formula if you want to check the lesson on length, but basically it will tell me how many characters I have in my text. So I'm gonna do equal len, then I select my text here, and then I'm gonna do equal len, select my text here, and then I'm gonna drag this formula here to the bottom, just to see in every line how many characters I'm gonna have in the output. The next thing we want to do before setting up a macro is to add a button. So we do insert, illustrations, then shapes, and then we can add a button here, put it here, and say execute. You click on it, you say execute. And then if you want, you can change the color. For example, you can make it in blue, this blue, and that's it. Next, we're gonna set up our macro to start. So you can right click here and say view code, and then you get into the VBA part. Now here you are in sheet 3 that is called sheet 2, so it's very misleading. What we're gonna do is we're gonna add a module. When you have a module, you can use this for a lot of sheets, and it's way better as a practice. So this module 2, I'm gonna call it justify, and I'm gonna say sub justify text, and then I'll do this. Okay, so we have our sub. Now, what I don't like is this name, so I'm going to call it justify to make it easy for me to catch. So this is a name change. You double click on it and you change the name. As simple as that. Next, we're going to start setting up our variables. So here we have several variables to take care of. The first one is the sheet name, because if you want to use this for your project, instead of changing things in the code too much, the only thing you have to change is the name of the sheet. As simple as that. And you can even copy the sheet from this project and the module, and then you can put it in your project and use it directly. So we're going to say dim sh as string. String basically is a text. And then we're going to say sh is equal to justify, because this is the name of my sheet, right? Then we need our text, right? So instead of adding another dim as string, I'm just going to do a comma, and I'm going to say this is my s. S is my string or my text. So I'm going to say s is equal to sheets. Then I need the sheet name. So my sheet name is what now? Is justify, right? sh. So I use my variable dot range, and then I need to pick up the text. The text is where? Is in E5, right? E and 5. So we do E5, then dot value. So now I stored my text into a variable. The next thing I need to do is to take the maximum length, right? So I'm going to do dim max len as long. Long means a very long number, a very big number. And I'm going to say max len is equal to sheets sh dot range. Where is it? It's in E2, right? E2 dot value. So now we took the maximum length. The other thing I need is I need to start writing my output here in E8, E9, E10, etc. So I need a counter, and this counter I'm going to start it as 8. So I'm going to add a counter as a long variable and say I is equal to 8, because this is my starting position, right? And there you go, you have now set up the main variables. Another thing that I need in order to do my macro is another text variable where I'm gonna start storing information. So here, for example, I have 80 characters, right? So I will start storing characters in my subtext until I reach 80 characters. And then once I get 80, I'm gonna put it here, move to the line, and then start storing again. This will be my strategy, and you will see this when we start writing the code. So for this, I need another text. So I'm gonna do here S1, and I'm gonna set up S1 to nothing, equal to double quotation, which means nothing. Next, every time I run this macro, I need to delete whatever I had here from the past, because if I ran something and I got some text, I don't want when I run my macro to have a text over a text and so on. It's not best practice. So I'm going to do a clean. So this thing apostrophe means that anything I write on this line will not get executed by the code. It's a comment if you want. So we're going to do sheets, same thing, sh dot range. Here I start at what? At E8, right? E8. Right? Now, if I want to clear more lines, I have to do column, and then I select something. So I'm going to do E10,000. You will never reach 10,000 lines for a manual. So I'm just taking 10,000. You can change it if you have more. And I'm going to say equal to double quotation, which means nothing. So now we go back to the sheet. We right click here. We say assign macro. And as you can see, I see my macros here. So I'm going to use justify text. I say this and then I say OK. So now every time you click here, it will execute the macro. To check that it's doing this, we're just going to do message box and then say hi. We close this message box. If I click, you can see that I get this. Now, why nothing is happening? Because we just set some variables and deleted some data. So for example, if I have data here, I click on it, you can see that the data is eliminated. So now we're going to start the fun part. The strategy, as I said, is we start storing characters in my substring until we reach 80 characters. Then we write the characters here and we move to the line. So let's start doing this. To do this, I need to know how many characters I have in my input text. So I'm going to create another variable. So here we add slen. So we're going to set up slen is equal to len, so the length of s, right? So how many characters I have in my input string. Next, I start writing my macro. The concept is I want to go through this text until I have no characters. So I'm going to say while slen is bigger than 0, so while I have characters in this input text, I go at the bottom and I do while end. What I want to do, I'm going to check first whether the character in my substring are more than 80. If they reach 80, I need to do nothing, right? So I'm going to say if len of s1 is equal to max len, then, and I do and if, and then I have my else case. So what happens? Let's assume that S1 now is 80 characters. What I want to do is I want to paste whatever it has inside here, right? So I'm going to say sheets sh dot range e and my indexed I, right? This is line 8. For first one is line 8, right? Dot value is equal to S1. So now what I do is I paste whatever I have in S1 here. Next line, I need to go to the line for the next time I want to do this. So I'm going to do I is equal I plus 1. So now I becomes 9, right? It goes to the next line and so forth, right? Next, I want S1 to be empty because I'm going to start storing, next time I go through this, I'm going to start storing characters, right? Here as I go through it. So this is what I want to do. This is if it is full. Now, if it's not full, what do I want to do? I want to add one character from S to S1, right? So I'm going to say S1 is equal to S1 and I want the left character of S, the first one. So for example, when it starts, S is empty and this is a very common tool, etc. This T, I want to take it from here and put it in my S1, right? So this is what I do. I took it from this and I copied it here, but I want to reduce it from here, right? So I'm going to say S is equal to right of S, and I want everything except the first character. So I'm going to do len of S minus 1. So this thing, what it will do, it will take all the characters of S and remove the first one, right? So this is one thing. Then I want to have slen, which is the length of this S, equal slen minus 1 because I took one character from it. So then it has one character less. This way, if you have an S1 at the beginning that is empty, what it will do, it will take one character from S, put it in S1, and then reduce the length of S, right? If it reaches my maximum, which is 80 characters, it's gonna take whatever I have in S1, put it in a line, take the index to the next line, and then make this blank. So before clicking on execute, I'm just gonna add here and if. Then I go to execute, I click, and as you can see, I got 80 characters here, but I got nothing at the bottom. So the rest did not come. Why? Because there is a case where at the end, let's assume that I took 80 characters and I wrote them here, right? Then I start taking the rest of the characters, but I did not reach 80 characters. So the length of my S went to 0, and S1 still has some characters, some data in, but I didn't take it, right? I didn't do anything with it because S1 never reached 80 again. So what I need to do at the end, after the while, I need to say that sheets sh dot range e and I dot value is equal to S1. So whatever at the end is left that is less than 80 characters, just paste it. So now if we click execute, you can see that I get my characters and I get two lines. I get 80 characters here and 72, right? In the next lesson, we're gonna take care of special cases. For example, you can see here that homework got cut, and ideally we need to have homework starting at the next line. Now, if this is a bit hard for you, you can still use my link, download the workbook, and use it for your work. If not, you'll continue the second lesson and you'll see how to treat those special cases.